morning, everyone. It's 11 o'clock and it's Wednesday, and that means that it's time for Elevenses with the reps at Diesel. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Every week we get together here on a Wednesday with a beverage and a snack, maybe. Yep. Sometimes you don't know. It might be an adult beverage these days. Always a possibility. I happen to be drinking tea. At least that's my story. I'm sticking to it. And we gather here with our wonderful publishers, representatives, and our fantastic booksellers, and we meet in our little Hollywood Squares broadcast space and talk about new, upcoming, recently released titles, old favorites we're excited about, everything we want to share with you. You got the skinny here because a lot of these are brand new from the experts telling us about what we should be reading, what we might want to read coming up here. So very excited. I'm going to introduce everybody shortly. But first, I want to tell you about a few events we've got coming up at the store tonight at 6:30 p.m. We are welcoming Kenneth Turan to the store, and he'll be discussing and signing Louis B. Mayer and Irving Thalberg, The Whole Equation. That's part of the Jewish Live series. That's going to be 6:30 tonight at Diesel, and that looks like a really great event.
I will be. I'm gonna go.
Yay. That sounds great. I wish I was there so I could also go. But I will have to just follow along from slightly afar. Then tomorrow evening, on the 20th, at 6:30 p.m., we'll be having Nicole J. Sachs. She'll be at the store discussing and signing Mind Your Body, a revolutionary program to release chronic pain and anxiety. And this looks really interesting. Discussion about freeing yourself from chronic pain, anxiety, and fatigue, and who doesn't have that right now? So that's going to be tomorrow night at 6:30. And then normally I don't talk about stuff that's happening past Wednesday, but I do want to, and I'll talk about it again next week on Wednesday. But next Wednesday, the 26th of February at 6:30, Carrie Madden Lunsford's going to be at the store, and she's discussing and signing Werewolf Hamlet. And joining her in conversation will be Susan Kaiser Greenland. And I know Carrie and I know her books. And this Werewolf Hamlet is the sweetest middle grade book. It's adorable. It's great. Carrie's great. And that's going to be a great event at 6:30 p.m. So a little extra plug for Carrie next week. I'm very excited about that. And I'll talk about it again next week. Joey, who's behind the scenes posting links to everything, has popped up the little button there. You can check out all the events and get more information over there. And also in the chat box over there are links for all the events. And coming up, Joey will be also posting all of the links to all of the books that we're talking about today. So you can click on those now or later and check them out. So having talked about all of that, I will introduce who's here today and we will get rolling. So joining us from the actual location from Diesel, just happened to be there. Wade Lucas from Random House is in the house, literally, Random House. And also from the PRH tent, we have our returning champion, Tom Benton from Penguin, and he's there, not in the store.
In my tent.
What's that?
In my tent, my PRH tent.
Your own personal tent. And joining us is also Patricia Nelson from Princeton University Press, and we're always glad to see Patricia. We haven't seen you for a while, so thanks for joining. And from his Booksellers in Cars series, we've got joining us for the second time only, but happy to see you back here. Jonna Newhall is here from Diesel. Okay. Let's get started, guys. Wade, why don't you lead us off?
Sure. And now I'm feeling kind of bad. Is this your typical spot Did I take it? Okay.
No,
Just want to make
no, he
sure.
likes doing it. No, no, no. This
No,
is
no,
his
not at all.
brand. This is his brand
My
now.
brand. I did this last time. It was great. No, I'm happy here. It's nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Hashtag
Now it's his
Hall
brand.
Talk.
So yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, and here's something a little fun today. I actually have books that are on sale in the store. So
Woo!
that's kind of fun. And you can buy these actual books. I've touched them. They're okay, though. My hands are clean. So, the first book, Compendium of Lost Tales by Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. This is a continuation of the Emily Wilde series that's fabulous. It's whimsical. It's fun. And I know the term romantasy gets tossed around a lot, and I'd like to toss that out the window because I don't want to narrow the audience for this. It's yes, there are fairies, there's fantasy in it. It's just wonderful. And it's an ongoing series. There are 4 books in the series. And then this is a little special because it's a collection of short stories set in that same universe. And I'd say it's appropriate for teenager, I'd say 14 and up, but it is an adult book. And some of the themes are adult, that sort of thing, but it is appropriate for teen readers. And if you have a reluctant reader or if you want to get them hooked on a series, this is a great starting point because it is short stories. And my attention span these days, I really like essays and short stories. So there you go. Wonderful gift. And it's hardcover, gorgeous book. There you go. Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales.
This is such a good looking book. In addition to everything else that makes it so appealing. It's really such a you just want to pick it up and hold it and leaf through it, which is what everybody does actually with it.
And I have booksellers who are borderline obsessed with this series.
Yeah,
It's great.
yes, I know some
So
of those
I highly
booksellers.
recommend it, not just by me. Yeah.
And it absolutely is not you don't need to sort of categorize any of the readers for this book. It's
No.
all readers. When I first saw it, I thought maybe it was like a young adult or something, and then I looked
Yeah.
a little bit deeper into it, and it's a really great book, great gift, but I think something for anybody. Amanda wants to know there's
It's
eyes all over the cover. Indeed, indeed, they are. It's just such a cool book. Have you not seen it, Amanda? It's an awesome looking book. It's great. Um,
it's just lovely, and I think that's something I need right now. So
yeah, I every week on Elevenses, it's something we need right now, right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
excellent. Thank you, Wade. Patricia, what do you have for us?
Well, I have an exciting book, A Lead for Princeton, that's just out. A Doctors by Nature is the name of it. It's on how ants, apes, and other animals heal themselves by Jaap de Rood. He is from the Netherlands, but has a lab at Emory. I just ran across a bookseller who knew of his lab, had a friend who had gotten a PhD under him. The book is tremendously exciting animal behavior about how animals heal themselves, how they self medicate. It's full of really kind of astonishing and fascinating information, and you can learn the new word zoopharmacognose, which would be animal self medication using possibly phytochemicals from plants and fungi, or maybe rolling in the dirt, ingesting some minerals that you might find, using some roughage from leaves and grass to clean out your gut. All sorts of fascinating information on bitter plants for stomach ailments. It's lightly illustrated in a sort of sciencey way. Here we have a picture of investigating a bird nest, which includes many cigarette butts that have been scavenged and which effectively fumigate the nest and protect it. Uh, it talks about catnip. We think we know all about catnip, but maybe don't know that it contains petolactol, which protects the cats from mosquito bites. Here we have a lemur. We can hardly tell what's going on in this picture, eating a millipede, which releases insect repellent chemicals. It's also quite ghoulish in moments. Sometimes we're looking at herbivores and how they carefully select perhaps a bitter shrubbery. Other times, though, we might be looking at caterpillars and wasps. And if you've ever read anything in the insect world, you know that it's full of alien and outrageous and horrific behaviors. So
yeah.
there's definitely some excitement in that manner. It's a good book for readers like Franz de Waal, Cy Montgomery, Ed Young. And in fact, we have a glowing comment from Cy Montgomery. Doctors by Nature brings a new wow on every page. This fascinating book will blow your mind with the chemical complexity of plants, the insight, ingenuity, and instincts of animals, and the healing powers within the reach of a thrilling array of creatures. It includes how traditional healers have called upon what they have observed in plant healing, what pharmacology might derive for us in the future, and even how to create natural habitats in your own yard to provide medication opportunities for wild pollinators and even for your own domesticated pet.
I love these kind of books so much. You know this, Patricia, we talked about this before, but it is wild. It's just wildly fascinating rabbit hole to go down into. It's so interesting. And they've got, of course, my favorite monarch butterfly right there on the insect world is insane. But I was just reading the other day about dolphins and pufferfish. I don't know if this is in there or not, but is it there's the
Oh, no.
pufferfish will release a toxin when you poke it, and it puffs up to protect itself, right? Yes, that is what I did there, Wayne. But dolphins, it gets them high, or makes them happy,
Yeah.
and so they poke they poke the pufferfish on purpose, blow them up, and then like pass it around. They'll they'll bop it around like.
They don't call it a puffer fish for nothing.
Yeah.
He does have a section on dolphins, although he's talking about some other behaviors with sponges and reefs. And there's quite a lot on monarchs. Monarchs, in fact, are one of the thread lines for research in his lab. So,
well, then I obviously have to have a copy of this book. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, physically, and so I'm gonna have to pick this up. It's on sale now, is it, Patricia?
I think it is, or on its way. I'm always a little vague.
Well, I'm gonna find a copy, and I recommend it highly. I love these kind of books, and as you know, I raise monarchs, so I gotta have it. More. There's some weird stuff out there, man, and it's really interesting. March 4th. Thank you, Joey. That means it's probably any minute. Thank you so much, Patricia. Great start. Tom Benton.
Okay, so my first book is Pico Iyer's A Flame, Learning from Silence. So I love Pico, period. I mean, so anytime we have a new book from Pico Iyer, I am thrilled. And I love being on Elevenses every time I'm on Elevenses, but especially today because
the good luck charm.
The LA Times announced this morning. They have, of course, the Festival of Books, but they also have the LA Times book prizes. The finalists were announced today. But in addition to the finalists in, regular categories, fiction, nonfiction, history, they have a special award every year for a writer of the West who's contributed sort of I hate to call it a Lifetime Achievement Award, but it is sort of that, and a writer with a deep connection to the West. And this year, the award will be given to Pico Iyer. So that'll be on the Friday night before the book festival. Pico will get that award. And I can't think of another contemporary author, who I'm more excited that he would get that award and be paid extra attention to, because he's interesting too, because he's a man of the Globe. He's a writer of the Globe, really. But though he hasn't always lived in Southern California, his adult roots are here. And even though he lives in Japan, he comes back to the Santa Barbara area. He has his whole life. So he's a really interesting kind of California writer. and just one of the great humans there is. And so the new book just came out, so the timing is perfect, called A Flame, Learning from Silence. Of course, the title immediately, the book came out in January. The title is immediately, gets our attention because of the fires, a flame. We all feel a flame. And I heard him talk about that. I mean, because obviously the Los Angeles fires are especially important to Pico. And as he said, he could title this book A Flame, and it could come out any year, and there will be fires somewhere, because that's the world we're living in now. But the book really starts with fire, because he started going to a Benedictine monastery in Big Sur, of course, always threatened by fire, over 30 years ago. And since then he's made over 100 retreats to this monastery. But he first went there after his home, his mother's home in Santa Barbara burned. So fire really, it is an important theme of this book, and loss, so he goes to this retreat, and it's about this, what he learned from the silence there, from the monks there. Pico is not a member of any religious group. He pulls from all kinds of religious groups. But he found great joy with the silence, not necessarily as an escape, but to find a deeper sense of himself as he would re-enter the world. So he shares the revelations that he experienced there, the wisdom. Pico is an endlessly wise person, writer, thinker, that we can all gain something from this book, and from what he's trying to tell us about silence and getting through adversity, looking inward, and it's a very hopeful book. Pico is also endlessly hopeful, and we need that today, tomorrow, every day for who knows how long. Really need this book. So very excited to have it out, and really proud that the LA Times is honoring him this year with the Kirsch Award. So that's Pico Iyer's A Flame.
Always a treat and an event when Pico Iyer comes out with a new book. But I think, as you mentioned, particularly salient at this point. But also what you mentioned about not letting go of the hopefulness, in the middle of all of the contemplation, reflection, being honest and realistic about what's happening, sort of, I feel like a more genuine type of hopefulness rather than meme based.
I agree. Yes.
Right.
And he's never, I feel like he's never escaped. It's not an escape to the monastery. It's something deeper that brings you in touch with what's really going on.
Exactly. Right. And then thank you. Joey has popped up the link there to the book prizes as
right.
well.
So if you click on that link, you'll see all the different categories and all the nominees, many of which we've talked about here on Elevenses. But the judges have picked these as their nominees for the best books of the year.
Right.
Will Diesel be at the festival?
What?
Oh, sorry. Will Diesel be at the festival?
Diesel will be at the festival for the first time.
Awesome.
Diesel will be at the festival for the first time. Yeah. Very exciting.
The 30th anniversary of the LA Times Festival of Books, and Diesel appropriately is celebrating by being at the festival, having a booth.
That really is very exciting. We'll be talking a lot more about it, about the festival as we go, because that's one of those the book crawl, the festival, Independent Bookstore Day. These are all, bookseller holidays. So you're very excited about it. Thank you, Tom. Excellent. All right. Over to the car. And we've got over there.
Over to the car. Welcome to the car, everybody. Pico Iyer, you said one of the best human beings. I agree with that. A long time ago, I was the events coordinator for Wordsworth Books in Harvard Square, and I did a lot of events. And he was the very first event I ever did was Pico Iyer, and so that was the first author. And he's He was
What a
just the
great
most
first author to have.
amazing. I know it was incredible, and he's such a gracious person and wise
Yeah.
I'll read anything by Pico Iyer. Yeah. Um, so
100% agree.
yeah. And speaking of an author, I'll read anything by. About 10 years ago, I discovered Ali Smith. Was recommended to me personally. Oh, I like certain authors. Maybe you should try Ali Smith. Okay. I tried. I read How to Be Both, and sometimes you read an author and you think, okay, I want to read everything this person has written and everything they will write. Yeah, after reading one book, because just something about the style, something about them speaks to you personally as a reader and as a person. You go, this is a revelation. And so Ali Smith immediately, instantly became like one of my pantheon writers. And I hadn't read her. I've been reading the books as they came out. I read Companion Piece and I read Glyph as an arc. It's the new book by her, which I recommend. It's really enjoyable. But then I have the seasonal quartet on my shelf, and I'd read Autumn. It was this wonderful. I mean, all of you know this, but just to refresh, it was this great publishing project she did where she wrote 4 books, one for season, in a very short amount of time. I was sort of remembering that it was all in one year, but it wasn't. It was over a couple years. She published these 4 books. They're loosely related, really. They're related kind of in their approach, I guess. But they're self-contained books. And I'd read Autumn and loved it, and so I thought, oh, this is the year. I owe it to Ali Smith. I have to read the other 3. Wait, it's winter. I got to read Winter. So Winter. I read Glyph, and then I just went back and read Winter just now, and I love this book. I just love it. And so I'm here to talk about it. And I kind of started by saying Ali Smith, this writer, everything she writes is infused with something special. And when I read this book, I thought, oh, let me see if I can like almost enumerate what it is about Ali Smith. And so I started writing a list of what it is about Ali Smith that's in all of her books, and really in this book. So I'm just going to read this really fast. It's just a list: art history, art making, words, wordplay, jokes, connections, correspondences, history, ironies, perception of curious details, magic, chance, intellect, music, style, sudden beauty, wonder, urgency, alarm, alertness, intimacy, fun, humanity, human connections, unlikely metaphors, esoteria, niche interests, vulnerability, companionship, current events, looseness of form, inventiveness of form, nimbleness of form, Shakespeare, poetry, and quotes, to name a few. Um, I kept going and going and going with what makes her special. And um, and so I'll just say very quickly that this book has its own self-contained narrative. It involves different strands of characters who then come together at the end. There are 2 women in their kind of 60s or 70s who are sisters. They are opposites. One is kind of straight down the line, and one is a rebellious progressive person who's always on the front lines. And then the son lives in London, and broadly speaking, they come together for the second half of the book, and they're brought together and they deal with each other, which is the loose narrative, and it's great. But it's really the narrative. It works, but it's really something to hang all of this on, all this great, this really unique, extremely enjoyable style. I find her so charming. It's like I guess all authors are like this to some extent, but her books are like hanging out with Ali Smith. Like and she is a person who is a genius. She's really smart, like brainy smart. So full of ideas, full of insights, and she's also very attuned to beauty, very attuned to language and words. All these things I said, um, and you get to sit with this person, and take in their unique mind. Very funny, all kinds of jokes, all kinds of wordplay, and just surprising correspondences, and very insightful, very beautiful, sometimes startlingly beautiful moments where you just stopped in your tracks. Um, and this is exemplary of her. Winter. I loved it. It did everything that I hoped for from her. I was happy to go back to it, and also very current events. It's about right now. These books are politically so, or about right now. They address these things. Um, I'm excited to get to the other two as the seasons come. So that's the book I'm enthusiastically recommending. Ali Smith, Winter, and Glyph.
This
We should
is
read Glyph as well.
this is great. I'm not familiar with Alex Smith at all.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
which
you
is
got to try her.
also,
You got to give her a try. Yeah.
yes. I mean, last time I immediately, whatever you were talking about, you're a great salesperson. You're a
Uh,
great fit. I
Bookseller.
do have a question for you though, for
Yeah.
somebody like me, or
Yeah.
when I go on um to recommend her, what can you like a comparable sort of author or title? What do you think?
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can remember exactly the person that recommended to me, and I was in Diesel as a customer when it happened, which is so cool. Like all these years ago, we were talking about Virginia Woolf and how
Ah,
I love Virginia Woolf. Um, I love all of Virginia Woolf, really. And that person, my friend at the time in the store, she's still my friend who was there at that moment, um, said, "Oh, I think you might be ready for Ali Smith."
uh-huh.
The caution about that is that if I say Virginia Woolf, some people go, difficult. Good, but difficult, and it kind of maybe some work, a little intimidating. And she isn't. I mean, she's really
Right,
smart, but she's also a master writer, meaning, I mean, some of Virginia Woolf is very challenging and very rewarding, and not all of it, though. So I would say kind of like Mrs. Dalloway or Orlando or something, where
mhm,
you just, these turns and wordplay and and totally original, and but um you care deeply for the characters as well. It's not just some brain game, you know. So I would say,
right.
if you enjoy Virginia Woolf, not just for the challenge, but out, that's the closest comparison
Okay,
I think.
that's great. That's a
Yeah,
great
or
one.
also
Yeah.
Even Jeff Dyer, someone like that, who's talking
Hmm.
about art a lot and making these connections with and speculations about life and mortality, but bringing in art and movies, and someone like, maybe, so it's
Right,
Virginia Woolf plus Jeff Dyer.
and it's also contemporary, so I think, yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, which
Yeah.
makes it, I think, it's a little easier to get into for some people. So,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
excellent.
Immediately contemporary, like really about
Right,
right now. She's British. She's from Scotland, and so there's a lot about
right.
Brexit and about things like, yeah,
Ah, perfect.
current events.
All right, excellent. Thank you. All righty, Wade, back to you.
Well, this is an interesting one to follow up after Ali Smith, who I also adore. We've had books many years ago when I first started at Random House. Random House, we published her, so um, fantastic. But another wonderful writer, Kelly Link. This is Kelly Link is one of my. It's so hard to number them, but definitely up there is one of my favorite authors. I mean, I can give you some example. David Mitchell, which actually is an interesting name to bring up when you're talking about Kelly Link. So Kelly Link is best known for she started a wonderful independent press called Small Beer Press, and she published her own work as well as others, and eventually we took over, bought all her work, and republished it at Random House. And she's best known for her short stories, which and my favorite, Joey, how fast are you? It's called Get in Trouble. This is my favorite collection by her. And the thing is, it's important to bring up the short story format because for me, her work is impeccable. It's so tightly wound and intricate and surprising. But the special thing is, this is her first novel. So you take these incredible stories with there are always twists and just brilliance, and you give it some space to breathe, and you have the Book of Love. Uh, so if you've never read Kelly Link before and you want kind of a longer format thing, definitely this is satisfying, it's wonderful, and so, so, so smart. And if you're like me, like I said, if your attention span isn't quite there, any of her short stories are great. Some of them read like a puzzle box. So you'll see what I mean if you read a short story and then pick up this as a long form novel. The brilliance is there, but like I said, she breathes, and it's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, I'm also obsessed with this cover slightly.
Yeah.
In person, it's even more beautiful in person. But of course, this has been popular. We just went, had the Valentine's Day
Mhm.
week, 2 week period, and so it's been getting a lot of attention, um, or more attention. But it's been out for a while. But beautiful, beautiful book.
When Deborah, in your opinion, like moving from short form fiction to long form, I mean, that's a major leap, right?
For an author, short form is harder. Um,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, it's harder to write good short fiction than to write a novel. Like there's a good quote. Amos Oz has a great quote about the various forms between like poetry, short fiction, and novels. Like one is a love affair, a one night stand. One is like a love affair. That's the short story, and the novel is a marriage, right? So, um, which I think is interesting, but that tells you something about it. Um, but it's hard to write. If you're coming from short fiction to novel, like chances are you really have honed, the ability to structure and tell a story um, and get all of those loose ends tied up. So
And
definitely.
her short stories, I'm just gonna use the term, are bangers.
Yeah. No, that's
But
Jody's favorite
no,
word.
uh, this is her opera, I would say.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Wade. All right. Patricia, let's go back to you.
Okay, well, we're going to have to put on our rose-colored glasses, get in the mood for La Vie en Rose. We have a gorgeous book on pink, the color pink. This comes from Michel Pastoureau. This is the 7th in his wonderful series of books on color. I've always loved the initial one, blue. I sold it years ago. He's done yellow, green, black, red. But pink really knocks it out of the ballpark. It's somehow just more so energetic saga. These are social and cultural histories of a color from Greek antiquity to the present in European and Western culture and art. Full of gorgeous images, all kinds of references. It reads richly. We start with ancient Macedonian pinks and the strangeness of pink. One of the reviews suggests that pink is like the planet Pluto, a little somewhat disputed throughout history. Latin and ancient Greek did not have a word for pink. There was rosa for flowers. There was incarnatus for flesh, but it really didn't evolve into a clear image until perhaps later in the Middle Ages, when the ability to produce the color became a little more possible. There were very rare Brazilian woods which could create a pink color. It was unstable, and there's the thought that that instability of pink could also be associated with love, luck, beauty, fortune, with changeability. We follow it into the 18th century where it really takes hold. It peaks in the Romantic period, sorrows of young Werther, ideas of romance. I can remember, of course, this fantastic painting. The cover derives from this being buried in roses in the most decadent fashion. It's very interesting on gender. Pink was actually not a gendered color until much further into the modern period. So we have a good chance to see it out and about. We have some great images, of course, that are more familiar with roses and joy. But it's not every book that can give you, oh, I hope I can find it and didn't lose it. Corn and Barbie in the same book. And that shows you the power of pink. It has a huge range. It's a delightful book. And I think you will enjoy it. And Pastoreau, it really gives you a wonderful text.
Patricia, you're like my personal book doctor. Like, always. It's always every book that Patricia presents. It's always just right in my wheelhouse. Books that make me happy and rabbit holes that I go down.
I think we need pink right now. We need
so pink has
some moments of pinkness against the outrage.
Yeah. From the time I was a really very small person, tiny child, I gravitated towards pinks. It's always been just sort of been drawn to it. And this book in particular is such a beautiful book. Love this book. Obviously, I love pink. I'm predisposed. It says pink on that. I'm going to pick it up, but really it delivers. It's a really gorgeous book. It's about, it's not huge, but it's a nice size. It's a little bit larger. It's a great, and I will also say that we often do color block displays at the register. We have a different color every month, depending on what we're thinking where we are going. And every time we do pink, it's every day. Pink, people really resonate with this color. It's soothing and makes people happy. Been a couple of oddballs who really are repelled by pink, and I wonder about those people. I really do. So anyway, this is a gorgeous book. It really is. Beautiful book. Thank you, Patricia. All right, Tom.
That looks amazing. I love pink, but I also love deep dives into color. Books about color are amazing and fascinating. My next book is The Garden by Nick Newman. So I'm going to take you to a darker place, the garden, where two elderly sisters. It's a very mysterious. When you first start the book, you're not quite sure what time or place you're in. All you know is these two sisters live alone. They live in a behind walls. They're in a walled house with their garden, and they don't venture out because it seems that it's not safe to venture out. But they're a little vague on what happened. And then into their world comes a boy, and a mysterious boy that they're trying to figure out what his deal is. And through the connection of these three, we start to dig deeper into what's happened outside. So to give you an idea, like the two books that are most influential, I think, on the author for this book are, of course, Shirley Jackson's We Always Lived in the Castle, and The Road. So that might give you, I don't want to say too much more, but that gives you an idea that they're kind of a sense of what's happened outside the walls. So it's eerie. It's a mood piece, very hypnotic. I really enjoyed this book. It was, and I'm not really a one sitting read type person, except on occasion. And this was a one sitting read. Also, I love books when they come along from booksellers. So Nick Newman is a bookseller, or has been a bookseller in England at Daunt Books. So he is really well read, really bright author. This is his first book for adults. I think he's written some books for kids in the UK, but a great debut here. So for anybody who liked, we're comparing it to, I haven't read Piranesi. Is that how you say it? That's that kind of book. But even I, who don't read this kind of thing that often, really enjoyed it. So really rich, quick read. So The Garden by Nick Newman.
Definitely a quick read, and like you said, just pulls you right in, which is what happened to me. I mean, I was pulled in I was intrigued. The Garden, of course. The title is great. This cover is really great, but then it absolutely delivers, and it pulls you right in, and you just are hooked. So really, this is another one of those books that I liked, and I thought had come out already because I read it. I read it so long ago.
Yesterday, I think, but yeah, it feels like it should have already been out.
Yeah, well, I mean, we read things in advance, everybody knows, but it's always, when you're excited to talk about something. So, it's here.
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. All right, John, I'm back to you.
All right. Hey, is my sound okay? I took off my headphones because it's easier for me
No,
to
you
hear.
sound great.
Is
You
it
sound
okay?
great.
Okay,
Yep.
great. I'll just keep it like this then. Um, so I talked about hanging out with Ali Smith. Another person that I would love to hang out with is E.B. White. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I saw this book on democracy. There it is. Yeah. Um, just lying around on the counter. I know E.B. White, but I didn't know this book, and I was curious what it is, and I pretty instantly bought two copies, one for me and one for my dad to read together, because I knew it would be great. And I'm in the middle of it now, it is great. So I'm talking about a book that I'm actively reading right now that I just really recommend. Um, Most people know E.B. White, but most people maybe know him from his children's books, Charlotte's Web and Stuart Little and Trumpet and the Swan. Those are uh, remarkable books for their stories and for their wisdom and their use of language. And then also he's the White of Strunk and White, um, Elements of Style. And it's important to say that because you read E.B. White and um, I don't know. No, nobody does it quite like he does. New Yorker writer for 50 years or something, since the beginning of the New Yorker, when the New Yorker was a light verse and humor magazine at the very beginning. So he wrote some of that, and then on through the decades, he wrote columns on everything on politics a lot, and he also lived in Maine. He wrote about living on a farm in Maine. And with a lot of and so this book, I'll just say this book was compiled by his granddaughter, Martha White. Um, it she in 2017, I guess I'm putting words in her mouth, but in 2017 something occurred which called for this book, I think. And that same thing just happened. And so it was uh, the book is a grab bag for people with short attention spans, um, of many, 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 many excerpts and little pieces that have to do, broadly speaking, with democracy and freedom. Freedom, I guess, is another big theme. And so you can dip in anywhere. It's very tantalizingly organized strictly chronologically. Each little piece has a date on the top. July 3rd, 1943 was when this particular thing was published. And so with some sense, so it's also a book about history. You get a sense of what someone who's engaged with that moment in history thought about that moment in history. But their pieces are chosen because they resonate about right now. And that's all kind of talking generally about the book. Real reason to read the book is E.B. White's way with words and his voice. I mean, this is the thing with me. Obviously, I love language. I love people that use language in interesting ways. He wrote the book on style, literally, um, and so he's aware of making things very readable, instantly readable, like a glass of water is drinkable. His prose is readable, um, with just flavor and humor, and so there's a lot of heavy topics in this book. But E.B. White has a lightness of touch. He goes deep. His ideas go deep. Somehow he does it. His ideas are very insightful, very deep, very direct. But somehow just warm, enjoyable. They have a perspective that is comforting. And he has a point of view, but he's not dogmatic. I'm not sure how he does it, but it is a joy to read. And I'll just leave it at that. But I want to just give a taste. Just give a taste. So if you read a single sentence from this guy and you know a bit about it. So he was asked by the Writers' War Board in 1943 to write about the meaning of democracy. Please, Mr. White, will you send us something about the meaning of democracy? So This is very short. I'll just read it, a bit of it. He says, "Surely the board knows what democracy is. It is the line that forms on the right. It is the don't in don't shove. It is the hole in the stuffed shirt through which the sawdust slowly trickles. It is the dent in the hi-hat. Democracy is the recurrent suspicion that more than half of the people are right more than half of the time. It is the feeling of privacy in the voting booths, the feeling of communion in the libraries, the feeling of vitality everywhere. Democracy is a letter to the editor. Democracy is the score at the beginning of the ninth. It is an idea which hasn't been disproved yet, a song the words of which have not gone bad. It's the mustard on the hot dog and the cream in the rationed coffee. Democracy is a request from the war board in the middle of the morning, in the middle of a war, wanting to know what democracy is." I, and FDR loved this particular piece, and he wanted it read a lot, and you so you get a flavor that you think, whoa, that's a joy to read. It's surprising, it's interesting, it's easy to read, and it sure is thoughtful. And you close the book and you go, let me think that about that for a minute, and then you go back and let me read it again, and then you underline it, and then you want to share it with people online, and so it's a useful book, very topical, totally enjoyable, and insightful and unique, and a good book to read with other people. So anyway, on democracy, E.B. White.
We gotta have you on more often. I really, I appreciate always that you read a little piece. You're like,
Yeah.
first one's free,
Yeah.
and then you got it, and then we're in. It's a really such a great book for now.
Yeah.
And I think your point about because just the little piece that you read, your point is really well made about language and the ability to convey a concept which is very complicated and amorphous for a lot of readers in such a readable and understandable way. So
Yeah.
you have
And
it
it's
at the
fun and
counter
kind
right
of
now.
humorous. There's a bit of
Yeah,
humor in there always.
yeah,
A glimmer of
yeah,
it is there, which makes it all the more readable and enjoyable.
yeah. And
Accessible.
when you get it, you get it. You know, and you really get it, and it's there, and it's
Yeah.
internalized. And this is a writer who knows how to do that. What
Yep.
Patricia says, she's sure that E.B. White's Dachshund Fred makes an occasional appearance. Is that right?
Oh, I haven't encountered Fred yet,
No,
but
right,
I'm only halfway through the book. But I
all
hope I
right.
do. Yeah, it
Well,
would be very fitting that he would do that.
right. Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, we're gonna start off our last round with Wade.
So, related to this book and social media, I was thinking, oh, if I have a follower, they know where I am right now. So I have to plan my escape from the diesel offices.
Uh-huh.
But in social media, how to break up with your phone. This has been, I mean, I have accounts that have sold dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of this book. It's been reissued with updated social media info. Everyone needs this right now. I personally took a break from social media for at least the last year, and I can't tell you what a relief it is. You can still get your news, you can still connect with your friends, but moving out of that space is very healthy, I think. And this is a funny, kind of quirky book that I think the accessibility is very important. It's short, quick read. If you have someone who is trying to get out of the social media trap, they will love you for giving them this. Wonderful little gift book too. And yeah, how to break up with your phone. It's a happy breakup, promise.
I've seen I've seen a lot of moms buy this for their kids. Um that's the
Well,
that is the
and I think that's where the kind of humor and the accessibility come in, because it's not like you're getting lectured. It's
right.
it's practical and it's so quick, easy to read. Anyway,
Right.
this is I think, an important book right now.
Absolutely, but now more than ever, I mean, really, we say now more than ever a lot on Elevenses. It is always now more than ever, everything, but this is a particularly good lesson and goal, I think. And I do know a few people who have taken breaks or have had to at a time, there are those social media, the watchdog, I don't know what they call them, the people who sit and like scroll through horrible content
Doom
looking for,
scrollers.
well, no, not doom scrolls, the ones who are looking for harmful content so that they can pull it off, so that they can ban it or get it off the platform. And those people have so much PTSD and stress and trauma, and the content moderators, I guess. I
Yeah,
don't know. That's
moderators,
what
yeah.
they're called. Yeah. But now all of us are those people. Every time, every time you open your phone and like look at, so it's like that. Everything we're looking at is so traumatizing. So I think this is a
And,
great um, um,
and from
way
a
of at
sleep,
least dialing it down. If you can't, we're connected and we need them now, but we don't need to be inside them all the time. So,
and from a sleep hygiene
right,
perspective, this
right,
is so. Read this instead of your phone, and
right.
it's going to make
That's
you
a
feel a lot better about putting it down before you go to
very
bed
good
or
point.
when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good point.
In
And
fact, that's one of the big points in the book.
yeah, thank you, Wade. All right,
Thank you.
Patricia.
Well, my last book is The Language of Mathematics, the story of Behind the Symbols. It's by Raul Rojas. It's translated from the Spanish. It's an intense book on symbols used in mathematics. As Galileo famously wrote, the book of nature is written in the language of mathematics. So this is short histories of mathematical symbols, showing math as kind of a living entity that's constantly changing, introducing famous mathematicians and the backstory of these symbols, and arranged in big sections along the line of numbers and variables, calculus and analysis, sets and functions, constants. This might give you an idea that you might have to wrestle with it a little bit. It's set up in approximately 60 mini chapters. It's definitely a book that you need to get deep into the symbols to think about.
Sounds like
And
a
introduces,
warning.
yeah, yeah, we're intimidated, those of us who are still working with simple punctuation. But it's full of great giants, as he says, on whose shoulders we stand: Descartes, Leibniz, Hilbert. Um, I enjoyed it. It's illustrated all through, and of course, here we see one of the giants. And I enjoyed this kind of final symbol. It's called the Hallmost box. So at the end of a successful proof, when the goal has been reached, mathematicians would leave the abbreviation QED, meaning that which was to be demonstrated has been demonstrated. And the mathematician Hallmost suggested that we simply, I don't know if you can see this, we just have a simple black box. So when we think things are done, we can draw a little black box at the end of that sentence and stamp our name. Very satisfying book for the math section, which is surprisingly vigorous and loves to have something new.
Surprisingly vigorous, and also many people come in looking for, hey, have you got any books about math? I mean, really, a lot more than you would think if you're not into math. If you are, then you already know. But
very enduring, which is a nice quality.
well, and I think the reason for that, just me personally, and you brought up math, and you didn't think that was going to be one of my things, Patricia, but it is, because you know all of my things. Because it was never a thing, and I struggled with it when I had to learn it in school, and then I had to teach my son math for various reasons, and so I had to relearn it. And the second time around, when I really got into it, so that I really needed to understand it, so that I could explain it to another person, I realized the absolute stunning beauty of math. I mean, it's amazing. It really is like secrets of the universe stuff. This is why people go like really out there with math. It's amazing. So this is an exciting, I mean, obviously not an easy book if you're not a mathematician already. You're not a math person or a physics person, but what fun, I think, if you have the time to get into it. And it doesn't look like it's too long. So you can
Well, very
spend all the
compressed.
time you
That's the
need
thing
on it.
about math.
Yeah, exactly. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Tom, let's wrap it up for the day.
Okay, so my last book is How We Learn to Be Brave by Bishop Marion Edgar Budd. So we all remember month. It's been a month now, maybe a
Has
little
it
over.
been a month? I know it's like a
I
year
know
already.
it's hard to believe, but
Like last January, it was like a year ago.
I know. To refresh our memories, she is the amazing person who spoke directly for all of us, maybe many of us, most of hopefully all of us, to Donald Trump, JD Vance, sitting right there. Just a few of the things she said. I asked you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. She went on from there. And now we turn to a publishing story. So she did this amazing thing. We published this book in 2023. When the book really came out of the last Trump administration, when Trump went to the cathedral for a photo op, she spoke out against the actions then. So we published it in 2023, and it did nicely. But we weren't in a time when the media was paying attention to a book like that until she gave her speech a month ago, or her sermon a month ago. And suddenly, readers came out of the woodworks. They were ordering it at indie bookstores all over the country. And we're reprinting as fast as we can, and we now have stock. So that's the exciting news. The book is back out in stores, and what an amazing title, How We Learn to Be Brave. So even though it's from 2023, it resonates deeply right now. She takes you through, she's of course, very learned. So there's literature references, political references. She tells her own story. And I saw her interviewed on Rachel Maddow just about a month ago. And she said something that was just amazing to me, because I think Rachel was saying how brave she was, and she must always, this is not hard for you. It's hard for a lot of us. It's not hard for you. And she said, no, this is hard for me. I take my sermons very seriously, and they're always hard for me. So I think we can learn so much from a book like this at this time. And I guess I'm thinking, like, her words they didn't have an immediate effect in the world, because we've seen what's happened in the last month. But hopefully, if we keep being brave, all of us keep being brave in whatever ways we can, there will be change. So really happy that this book is now back out there and being paid attention to, How We Learn to Be Brave.
I was so happy to see this come in, Tom.
Yeah.
When it came now, we have big stacks of it now, so it's available. But it was great to see it come in. I missed it the first time. 2023 was not that long ago either.
I know, it's true. It seems like ancient history, and yet it was
like a new release practically. This is a great book to finish with, actually, and I think all of us here probably saw that sermon and were moved by it, and really does sort of define bravery, especially when you consider the fallout that happened. So hopefully this is sort of counterweight to all of that. So really, and a nice, it's a nice little package as well. It's a nice small book, and affordable as well. So that is a great note, I think, How We Learn to Be Brave to end on. Tom, thank you
every week we'll be learning how to be brave. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But who better to tell us than our wonderful publishers reps, who are on the front lines of keeping the communication books very important. Very important. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but we continue to do it, and that's why. because it's everything. Complete. Go ahead, Patricia.
I just have to say, our bookstores are on the front line. I just recently, running all the way through LA and then all the way through the Bay Area and all the many stores I see virtually, I'm just struck by how they are a lighthouse, an oasis, a place of comfort, a place of safety, a place to be listened to. Uh, this has always been the case, but they're really hanging in there, and they're incredibly generous.
We are, and we'll continue, right forever, really. World without end, as a writer once said. So thank you so much for doing all that you do, and especially for joining us here today. Thank you, Wade Lucas from Random House, Tom Benton from Penguin, Patricia Nelson from Princeton University Press, Jana from your car, but diesel, obviously. And thank you to Joey for posting everything and being there quick on the links, as always. Thank you, Ginny, for that lovely comment earlier. I wasn't able to type it. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. We love to see you here every week, and that's why we're going to be back again next week with more reps and more booksellers and more fabulous, wonderful books to talk about. And so we hope to see you all then. In the meantime, everybody hang in there. Have a great week. Thanks, everyone.